taking the space everywhere.
You witnessed a death. Now it's latched onto you.
Sky, pull it together and get back out there.
Okay, I know I'm really late to the game on this one. Smile 2 came out in theaters like 2 months ago. I didn't go see it when it was in theaters, but the reason was because at the time, I'd never seen the original Smile movie, and I'm an OCD completionist. I can't just jump into part 2 unless I've seen part 1. It's a thing that my brain won't let me do unless I have to, so I didn't go see Smile 2. I finally got around to watching both movies within the last week. Smile 1 I watched about a week ago, and Smile 2 just came out on streaming, and I watched it last night. So I figured, why not make a review of it now? Maybe it's too late. Who cares? I really want to talk about it. And the reason I want to talk about it is, although I enjoyed the first Smile, I thought it was pretty good, I really love Smile 2. I actually think that it is far better than the original, and I can't wait to see where they go with this film moving forward, especially with the concept that they may or may not have implied at the end of this film. I'll get into spoilers later, but before, I'll start spoiler free. If you've seen the first Smile, this part is not going to be a spoiler. This is essentially just the lore, the idea of what's happening, but essentially these movies are about this demonic entity that sort of possesses or haunts a particular host for a week-long period before ultimately killing them. But there's a unique spin in the victims that the demonic entity goes after and also how the executions are done. The first thing is that it feeds off of somebody's personal trauma. So it is specifically going after people that have had this sort of dark, haunted past to begin with. And then once it infects you, it starts making you see all these creepy smiling people all over the place. It starts playing on your fears and insecurities. It'll bring up very vivid memories of traumatic things that have happened to you in the past. It'll make you think that people are talking to you when they're not. It'll make you see things during the day, basically having these nightmare sort of scenarios, but are they hallucinations? Are they real? And of course, only the person infected can see them or can see these people or the hallucinations or the things that are happening to them. And it basically begins to like mentally deteriorate you as time goes on. So throughout the course of this week, it starts getting more and more intense. And essentially you start going into panic mode. You start having extreme anxiety and stress. To everyone else around you, it just looks like you're going crazy. And then ultimately the creature has you kill yourself. I'm going to say that on YouTube. I hate people saying unalive. It demonetized me. So basically, it makes it look like you go into a depressive spiral going past the point of no return, and then ultimately you take your own life. And that's what it looks like to the outside world. And the irony to that, I guess, is that while this is happening, all you can see are these smiling people and the smiling demonic entity itself that only shows itself at the very end when it takes over your body and has you, do whatever it takes to kill yourself. And then while that happens, while the person offs themselves, they do it in front of somebody else, essentially passing on that trauma to somebody else, and then the demon goes from that host to the next host. Both of the movies are directed by a guy named Parker Finn, and the quality increase that I saw from part 1 to part 2, especially watching them pretty much back to back, just a couple of days apart, this is a guy that I'm definitely going to be paying attention to moving forward. And although I would like to see him step out of this universe and do something else as well to get a little bit more variety, the way that Smile 2 ends, I just am so insanely curious to see where he would take this in a third installment. But anyways, the only way to get rid of this curse and not end up offing yourself is if you murder somebody else. So it basically forces you to have two choices. You either die yourself or you end up killing somebody. And of course, that has to be done in the view of a witness for the demonic entity to pass to the witness. So that is your only out. So you have two options, kill or be killed, and that is the only way to remove this curse from yourself, which is a great idea for a horror film. And then, of course, in the midst of that, the person that's infected is continuously seeing all these visions and hallucinations and creepy imagery. So these films are ripe with potential to do kind of a variety of different things that you would see in horror movies. It's not so much a haunting movie like a a Conjuring or something like that, it also goes into the psychological breakdown of a main character, not knowing what's going on, trying to figure it out and trying to find ways, trying to find loopholes in order to defeat this curse. The first movie set the foundation, it set the rules, it set the parameters, and it was pretty good. But now moving into Smile Part 2, I got to tell you guys that I love this movie way more than the first one. And I thought the execution of this film, along with the lead performance by Naomi Scott, was just incredible. Like, this year, 2024, I said it before and I'll say it again, this has been a memorable year for horror films. Between this and The Substance, Nosferatu coming out soon, Alien Romulus, Longlegs, Late Night with the Devil, Immaculate, there's probably plenty more that I'm not remembering. This has been quite the year, and I'm glad I got the opportunity to see this because I would stack this right up with the rest of 2024's best of horror movie collection and say that it's definitely one that you guys should check out. Now, I would also say that it is very important for you to see the first movie first, not just being an OCD person like me that needs to watch things in order, but this movie literally picks up 1 week after the first movie, and it's very, very important that you kind of have an idea of the rules and the lore going into it, which I just explained to you, so I guess you have it if you haven't seen the first one. But I would say it is very, very important that you do see the first because they do flow into each other, even though this movie does focus on a different main character that's not connected with the main character of the first movie whatsoever. But I thought the way that they utilized the main character in Smile 2 was very creative because it gives us something that you don't really see a whole lot in horror movies, I guess, is that the lead character is sort of a pop star or somebody that's in the limelight, somebody that goes up on stage, kind of like I don't know, who's a pop star right now? I don't know, Ariana Grande or something? I don't know. I don't listen to pop music, but like what I'm saying is it's somebody that's in the spotlight. So it's somebody that everyone's eyes are already going to be on. Now, in the midst of her breaking down and having this, psychological breakdown within the week that she's infected, it makes everything worse because she's expected to act a particular way. She's expected to go out and not only perform, but also remember all the choreography. And she's expected to have this bright, shining, smiling personality all the time anyway. But she's also dealing with a lot of the repercussions that these famous pop stars get into, is that she already has a history of drug abuse and also being in this car wreck. This is all explained right in the beginning, so this isn't a spoiler. This is her backstory. This is her trauma that allows the creature to attach to her in a powerful way, is that as a result of her being who she was and partying and doing drugs and being involved with the wrong crowd, she got into this massive car accident. She's left with a mortal scar that she's going to have the rest of her life. Somebody else died in the accident. So it's this big thing that she's slowly recovering from. And so as she's trying to recover from not being on drugs and not being this, rebellious, just kind of destructive entity that a pop star in the limelight can be, she's trying to go more on the straight and narrow, trying to be a good, positive influence to her fan base now. Well, that's the exact time that she gets infected with this demonic entity. And of course, you already know, everyone's going to think that she's back on the drugs. Everyone is going to think that she's going crazy, that she can't handle the stress of, what she's meant to be doing regularly. And I really got to say that Naomi Scott gives an incredible performance to the point where you really, really understand her and sympathize with her, despite her being, an objectively kind of bad person to begin with. But she really is trying to take the steps to do better. And you really do feel bad about like all the past relationships that have gone astray because of how she was before, and she's trying to piece it all back together. She's trying to live up to the expectations of her mom, and everyone's always coming at her all the time. She's got like weirdo, creepy fans that want to marry her and want to do other things with her, and it just is I think maybe a very underappreciated performance, maybe not from the people that have seen the movie, but when it comes to just film in general, horror movies are often disregarded and kind of like not given the same kind of mainstream attention or appreciation. But I really do think that I would look at this actress and say, you know, she did something pretty great here, and hopefully there is some sort of recognition out there for her because of it. Now, not just liking the main character, I think the movie has a ton of great things in it. The opening sequence, which is not fully done in one take, but it's mostly one take. It's made to look like one take. Holy shit, like the first 10 minutes of this movie, which is kind of separated from the main story, but also kind of not. It's great. It is so good. It is intense. And like I said, if you've seen the first movie, then it flows directly into it. And just, you already have that tension. You already have that fear of what's going on. And if you have seen the first movie and you know the rules and the lore, you know exactly what's happening in the first 10 minutes, but nobody else does except for one character. And it's just like watching this character try to fix this situation in everything that can possibly go wrong starts going wrong, and it just starts the movie off with a bang. Probably one of the more intense sequences in the entire film, and it's got a lot of moments where it looks like it's done in one take, where the camera is inside of a house and comes out of a window, and the character comes out of a window, and he's running towards the front of the screen, and then something else happens, and it's like all this stuff is going on at once, and I'm just like, wow, that was very well directed. Impressed me right from the get-go. And then it starts to go into the main story with our lead character that just goes above and beyond the rest of the movie. There's a lot of great sequences with her having the hallucinations and moments where you don't know what's real and what's not real, and that's kind of like one of the bigger premises of these two movies, both Smile 1 and Smile 2, is that you're pretty much in the headspace of one character the whole movie, so you're not supposed to know what's real and what's not real. I will say, without spoiling anything, there is a long extended sequence that really makes you question what's real and what's not real, and when it's revealed at the end of what was real and what wasn't, I could see that not working for some people and see them rolling their eyes and think it's a little bit ridiculous, but I actually think it makes perfect sense in the context of the story, but I can't really go into it until I go into spoilers. But it worked for me, and the nail in the coffin was the finale of this movie, the final sequence, which just is ripe for so much potential of what could happen in the future of these movies, man. It, of course, has a really creepy sequence with a naked dude, and I'm of the opinion that if you film nudity in the right way, it can be terrifying. I'm a big fan of Hereditary, by the way. So yeah, this movie really impressed me. When I watched The First Smile about a week ago, you know, I thought it was a pretty good horror movie. I was like, I liked it. It was pretty good, but maybe not something that I would revisit all that often. Maybe not something that I would, you know, come back to time and time again. Smile 2, this is definitely a movie I'm going to have to watch a couple more times. Absolutely. This one really surprised me, and I thought it was a pretty big upgrade from the original. Now, before I end the video, I do want to go into spoilers a little bit. I want to talk about a couple of specific things that I really think are great about the film. So if you haven't seen it or you care about spoilers, go ahead and check out now. But if you would, please give the video a thumbs up and a comment to help it out in the algorithm. I'd appreciate it if you did so, and subscribe if you want to stick around and see more. I do a lot of horror-related content on the channel. Okay, so going into spoilers, the opening sequence with the Kyle Gallner character, holy shit, what a way to open a movie. First of all, the movie opens directly on his face, and you recognize the character immediately from the first movie. You wonder what he's up to. He's outside some dude's house stalking him. And again, at this point, you know he's been infected for a week, so maybe it's, you know, he's seeing visions or something. And this was a good dude. This was like a genuine good dude in the first movie, but he decides that he's going to go to this criminal's house. And, you know, these people, I forget what he said that they did. They either killed somebody themselves or did something worse to somebody. So he goes in and he stabs the crap out of one of the criminals in front of the other one. And, you know, nothing's explained at this point in the movie in the beginning. So this is why you have to watch the first, because, you know, if you kill somebody in front of a witness, then you can pass on the curse. And I was like, okay, you know, that's what he's trying to do. But then, of course, shit goes wrong. The dude, they end up in a gunfight. He ends up killing the dude. And it passes to this drug dealer, you know, that is in contact with, that was there, you know, as a witness. And he, you know, gets infected. And of course, our lead protagonist, which is the pop star, how she's trying to get off drugs, the only reason she goes is to get painkillers because of the injuries that she sustained from her car crash way back when. So she's not even trying to get like fucked up or anything. And of course she goes there, and of course he seems crazy because he's on drugs too, and he bashes his face with a plate from like a bench press, and it's just like, oh my god, dude. And then of course her performance the entire way through, like I said, I loved it. The extended nightmare sequences of her seeing people in her house, as well as the obsessed fan, like just completely naked in the shadows, just creepy as fuck. Naked people creep me out. I don't know what it is. Certain naked people. Yeah, so that worked for me well. I could see the thing not working for people is that there's like an extended like 25-minute scene that all turns out to be a hallucination. There's like a whole moment where she wakes up and she's holding a piece of broken glass, and it looks like her mom is dead. Now, I thought that was weird when I first watched it because there's nothing in the explanation of the lore that ever said that the demonic entity could make you kill other people, right? It's like you have to make that choice yourself. You have to kill someone to pass the curse on to somebody else. But never would somebody just wake up and be like, oh, I killed somebody while I was blacked out. Like, that seemed fishy at first. But then the movie kept going and kept going and kept going. And I was like, okay, maybe that did really happen. And then there's this whole extended sequence about her trying to get rid of the curse with the guy that says he's going to, you know, kill her briefly and then resuscitate her, if that could work, if that could be a loophole. But that whole extended sequence was a fantasy. Now, the reason that I think it worked for me is because I think the demonic entity was specifically waiting for the concert to perform the kill. And in order to do that, it needed to buy time because obviously a concert wouldn't be happening until late at night. So I could see how the entire day could be a fabrication. Now, this could be annoying because I have complained myself in other movies where extended dream sequences end and it feels like you wasted a bunch of time because none of that was real, right? But I think in this movie, they found a way to make that work because she does go through a lot of development throughout this fantasy just in her drive to overcome this thing and try to be a better person. But it also makes sense for the entity to want to put her in that fantasy to buy the time to get to the concert. And for me, that worked. But I could see how that scene would maybe annoy some people because it's like, oh, what, all that was fake? Yeah, but that is kind of the purpose of what this creature does. And then I was wondering if we were going to see the smile monster. You only ever see it at the end, but I love its reveal. I love how it just breaks out of her wounds and just like it has these giant like creepy arms. Reminds me of fucking Frank from Hellraiser coming up out of the out of the floor. And you know, it just looks great. It looks great. It was more CGI this time than practical, but it still looked really good. And then of course, she kills herself in front of the entire audience. Now, what does this mean? Okay? Because the lore says that the person that witnesses the death is now infected. Does this mean that everybody in the crowd is now infected? Or can the demonic entity only go to one person at a time? Either way, the potential for where this could go, like if this is like a widespread virus kind of situation, that would be crazy. And that would be, I don't even know how you would approach that movie, but I'd be there to see it day one. Or, you know, you could pick any type of character that would have been there in the crowd and you could continue a third movie with that person. So, you know, it's right for potential. That might be an easier, more explainable route to go. But I think setting up the premise that you might have this mass infection of people that are all cursed now, I think that is like ripe for opportunity to do something that is way different than the first two. You know, the first two, you set the standard, you set the premise, we know what happens. Now let's just go balls to the fucking wall with it. Let's go crazy. That's what I say. But anyways, I really like Smile 2. I liked it a lot, if you couldn't tell. I thought this movie was great. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you like it more than the first movie like me? Or do you like the first movie better? I like both, but Smile 2, way better in my opinion. All right, thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you later.